There is a war that no one notices, and it takes place within you. It involves no weapons, leaves no visible marks, and unfolds without witnesses. It begins the moment your eyes open, before the first word, before the first decision. It is the war for your mind. Everything you do is born in that place. Every attitude, every emotion, every act of faith or quiet, fall begins first in that invisible space where thoughts take shape. And it is in that hidden territory that the enemy draws near, using doubt to weaken, fear to steer, and subtle distortions to pull you away from the right path. Life is not lost all at once. It unravels in fragments, in a memory that returns with weight, in a guilt that never finds rest, in a persistent sense of inadequacy. These discreet, almost imperceptible voices shift perceptions and turn certainty into uncertainty before you even notice the change. Jesus understood this dynamic. He never began with behavior. He began with its source. When he spoke about sin, he turned his gaze to the thought that comes before the act. When he taught about faith, he highlighted the mind capable of believing before the mountain moves. Every parable, every confrontation, every word reached the root, the point where convictions are born and where decisions are truly formed. The mind is not neutral. It is a spiritual battleground. And Jesus did not come only to rescue your soul. He came to free your conscience. He knew of the silent wars you would face, the weight of the past, the failures that still echo, the voices that insist on suggesting that God has withdrawn. And he knew something even deeper. Even the quietest room can fill with noise when the enemy finds space to speak to your conscience. The battle for the mind does not wait for you to be ready. It acts first. In the instant your consciousness returns from sleep, something is already trying to occupy space within you. It is not dramatic, nor is it an obvious attack. It is a subtle shift, almost imperceptible, attempting to set the tone of your day before you even realize you are thinking. This is how the war begins. Silent, strategic, anticipatory. The first thought of the morning rarely arrives alone. It carries a weight, a mood, a suggestion. Sometimes it takes the form of worry, other times an old memory, and at times a low expectation about yourself. And if it goes unrecognized, it sets the direction your emotions will follow. This happens because the mind wakes vulnerable, open, receptive, seeking reference. And the enemy knows this terrain with precision. This is why Jesus always drew attention to the inner world before any action. He knew the mind is the first door that opens each day, and everything that passes through that door influences behavior, faith, decisions, fears, and even the way you interpret the presence of God. He saw what no one sees. Distorted thoughts shape entire paths without making a sound. This initial territory is critical because it defines what you call how I feel today. The soul tries to adjust, but the first impulse has already been launched. If it is marked by doubt, doubt spreads. If it is marked by fear, fear multiplies. If it is marked by guilt, everything feels heavy. That is why the enemy acts early. He wants to occupy the ground before you decide who should govern that place. And this is where the atmosphere darkens. There are thoughts that are not merely memories. They are arrows projected. There are sensations that do not arise from nowhere. They are shadows seeking shelter. There are ideas that do not belong to you, yet they arrive draped in your own voice. This is the oldest trick in spiritual warfare, to influence without being perceived. Eden exposed this mechanism. The serpent did not alter reality. It altered interpretation. A well-placed question distorted perception, and that distortion changed the decision. The fall did not begin in Eve's hand. It began in the thought that found space to settle. It still works the same today. Whoever controls the first thought controls the direction of the heart. This is why the beginning of the day is always a critical field. Because before you speak, before you act, something has already tried to determine what you will feel and whom you will listen to. After the first thought finds space, a deeper movement begins. The formation of ideas that appear legitimate but did not originate from you. They arrive as ready-made conclusions, carrying a logic that fits perfectly into your vulnerabilities. This is how the lie begins to take shape, not as direct opposition, but as a convincing interpretation. The mind accepts what feels familiar, and the enemy knows this weakness. He clothes the lie with the color of your memories, with the tone of your insecurities, with the texture of what you have felt before. So when it arrives, it does not sound strange. It sounds coherent. It sounds like you. This is why so many distortions go unnoticed. They do not come to declare something new. They come to reinforce something you already suspected about yourself. A sense of inadequacy that has followed you for years. A fragility you tried to ignore. A past mistake that still echoes. The lie feeds on these inner cracks. It does not invade. It leans. Jesus exposed this mechanism when he called the father of lies a murderer from the beginning. He was not speaking of physical death, but of the inner death that occurs when the mind begins to see itself through distortions. The lie kills direction, kills confidence, kills the right perception of who God is and who you are before Him. And when that axis tilts, everything around seems to lose stability. These distortions join together like pieces of a mosaic. A doubt connects to a fear. A fear connects to a trauma. A trauma connects to a sentence someone spoke years ago. Suddenly, the mind assembles an entire narrative without realizing that it did not come from truth, but from the accumulation of wounds. Scripture calls this a stronghold, not because it is strong, but because it sustains itself in silence. Mental strongholds are not built in a day. They are built slowly, through thoughts no one questioned, feelings no one confronted, and conclusions never examined under God's light. And when the light finally enters, it reveals something uncomfortable. Much of what you believed about yourself was nothing more than the echo of lies that found shelter within you. This is where the war intensifies, because once a lie is exposed, it loses its strength. And that is why the enemy works so hard to ensure you never notice where it came from. There is a kind of silence that does not bring rest. It is the silence that exposes, that amplifies every feeling, that turns the mind into a space far too vast to ignore. This silence appears on days of exhaustion, in moments of uncertainty, on nights when the body asks for pause, but the mind remains lit. And when it arrives, the mind becomes a desert, a place without distractions, where everything echoes more loudly than it should. In this inner desert, thoughts that would normally pass unnoticed gain intensity. Old wounds reappear with clarity. Hidden fears gain shape, and small insecurities begin to look like real threats. It is an environment where the soul tries to organize what it feels, but in doing so, ends up revealing vulnerable points you show to no one. And it is precisely here that the enemy attempts to enter. It was in a desert like this that Christ faced temptation. Scripture speaks of hunger, solitude, and strain, but the real battle was in the invisible. Satan did not attack with force. He attacked with interpretation. He tried to alter the meaning of truths Christ already carried. He tried to suggest easy paths, distort purpose, present shortcuts that seemed coherent. It was a silent war, not of actions, but of meaning. Christ responded with something that defines every mental battle: clarity. He did not debate. He did not justify. He affirmed what he already knew. When he said, "It is written," he was not merely quoting verses. He was placing truth in the place of distortion before it could settle. He showed that temptation does not win because it is strong. It wins when it finds confusion. The inner desert does exactly this. It shows where you are confused. It reveals where faith has weakened. It shows where you still interpret life through wounds rather than through God. And at the same time, it shows where truth must be reaffirmed so that nothing occupies the wrong space within you. This desert does not exist to destroy you. It exists to expose what was hidden, to expose what needs light, to expose what, if it remains in the shadows, will become an open door to the enemy. Silence is dangerous for those who do not know what they carry, but it is liberating for those who finally choose to face what they have always tried to avoid. After the mind passes through the desert, another danger appears. Thoughts that arrive disguised as solutions. They do not seem like threats. They do not sound aggressive. They come as reasonable ideas, quick justifications, explanations that ease the tension you do not want to face. And in this moment, the mind is no longer merely a battleground. It becomes a door. This door does not open by force. It opens when you accept a thought that offers control, relief, or escape. It appears safe, yet it carries hidden intention. And when it enters, it begins to reorganize feelings, interpretations, and decisions, shaping you from within without you noticing the source. Jesus warned about this when he spoke of how the issues of life flow from the heart. He knew that not only ideas enter, inclinations do, and an inclination accepted at the wrong moment can alter the entire direction of a spiritual journey. This is why certain thoughts arrive precisely when you are tired, frustrated, or searching for a quick answer. The battle reaches its most critical point here, when you must decide which voice may remain and which must be expelled before it takes form. It is in this silent choice that destinies change. The war for the mind never stops. Each day brings new voices, new memories, new shadows trying to claim space within you. But victory is not found in never being attacked. It is found in recognizing who has the authority to speak. Christ revealed that authority. He showed that lies only rule when they are not confronted, that fear only grows when it finds silence, and that truth only transforms when it occupies the place that belongs to it. When the mind aligns itself with the voice of God, distortions lose strength, shadows lose territory, and what was once confusion becomes a path. The battle continues, but the mind that belongs to Christ does not bow to what tries to divert it. It remains firm, and in that firmness, it finds peace.